Welcome everyone to today's Positive Partnerships Understanding Behaviour webinar. This is actually a recording of a webinar, so there's no other participants on the line. So what I'm going to do is when there's time for you to think about a question, I'm just going to pause for a minute and let you have some thinking time. So my name is Suzanne Donnelly and I'm the National Project Officer for Positive Partnerships. I'm based in Sydney. My background is education. I taught at a school for children with autism and I'm going to be facilitating today's webinar on understanding behaviour. So first I just want you to think about why you chose to listen to this webinar and what's your intention for today. What are you wanting to get out of the webinar? So my intention today is to help make you feel a bit more comfortable and relaxed about the idea of talking about your child's behaviour and to help you understand the possible causes behind difficult behaviours. I want to empower you and for you to feel safe talking about your current issues or any concerns you might have with school staff or professionals. If you walk away with at least one new idea today, then we have achieved what we have set out to do. So first, I just want you to think about what is behaviour. I'm just going to put up on the screen some different words. So all these words coming up on the screen now are behaviours. Behaviours are everything we do and say. When we are describing behaviour, we need to be objective and not to make a judgment. For example, not listening is a judgment and not the behaviour. The behaviour is what you can see, so maybe it's covering ears with hands. So up on the board we have lots of different examples of behaviours. And as you can see, they're verbs, they're doing words. And they're very objective. It's just exactly what you can see. Meltdown is not a behaviour, so we need to actually describe what a meltdown is because it would be different for each child. So it might be screaming, could be hitting, could be throwing, be crying. So we want to make sure that when we talk about behaviour and we describe behaviour, that a person who hasn't seen that behaviour will get a good picture of what it looks like in their head. Okay, so all behaviour serves a purpose and has a function. Children with autism often exhibit a range of behaviours that can be challenging, confronting and confusing for their parents, teachers and others working with them. Not the child that's been challenging, it's the situation, it's the behaviour. And it can present for a variety of reasons. It could be to do with difficulties with communication. It could be to do with the environment, such as lack of appropriate experience or skills. Behaviour can be complicated, there's no magic wand, and the same behaviour can serve more than one function. Multiple behaviours can serve the same function. For example, crying can have many reasons. You could be crying because you're hurt, could be crying to get someone's attention. Some people cry when they're happy. You might be crying to communicate something, like you're hungry or frustrated. To determine the function of a behaviour, we need to ask questions and we need to gather some information. We need to be a detective. Positive behaviour support provides some useful tools to help gather this information. And we're going to go through some of those tools during this webinar. But first I wanted to start off with what is positive behaviour support? So traditional behaviour management usually focuses on what to do after the behaviour has occurred. It's reactive. But this does not teach the child how to behave appropriately. Research has identified that the most effective way to manage behaviour is to determine the reason or function of the behaviour and to prevent the occurrence of the behaviour by modifying the environment and teaching the child a more appropriate way to get their message across. So being proactive rather than reactive. So this process of determining the reason for the behaviour and putting things in place before the behaviour occurs is often referred to as positive behaviour support, or PBS. So there are many elements that are important in the positive behaviour support process, and some of these include to firstly identify which behaviours are dangerous, damaging and disruptive, and these are the behaviours we want to stop. So there's a couple of questions you can think about when you're looking at behaviour to decide if it's a behaviour you need to stop. Not all behaviour needs to be stopped. So firstly, is the behaviour hurting themselves? Is the person hurting themselves or others? If the answer is yes, then it is a behaviour you need to stop. Is the behaviour stopping the person or others from learning? If the answer is yes, then it's a behaviour you need to stop. Is the behaviour stopping the person from accessing everyday activities? If the answer is yes, then it's behaviour that needs to stop. So those questions again was, is the behaviour is the person hurting themselves or others? Is the behaviour stopping the person or others from learning? Or is the behaviour stopping the person from accessing everyday activities? So they're just three questions to consider if you're trying to identify if the behaviour is dangerous, damaging and disruptive. So then we need to investigate what sets off the behaviour. Could be people, places, activities, and when and where is behaviour least likely to occur. And I'm going to show you a tool later that can help with this. We also need to look at what happens before and after the behaviour. And we need to use all this information to identify the function of the behaviour. So on the screen is what we call an ABC chart. And this is one tool that can be used to help you be that detective to determine what could the possible reason be for the behaviour. So A stands for antecedent, B behaviour, C consequence. When you're using this tool, you start with the behaviour column. So writing down objectively exactly what the behaviour looks like. For example, Tim tips rice bubbles on the floor. Then you look at the antecedent column and you record what happens before the behaviour. So it could be Mum was on the phone. Then in the consequences column, you record what happens directly after the behaviour. Mum hangs up, scolds Tim as they clean up. So looking at this example of Tim tipping rice bubbles on the floor, Mum's on the phone, and then once he tips them on the floor, she hangs up and scolds Tim and they clean up. There could be a few possible reasons for the behaviour. Tim could be hungry and unable to communicate that to Mum who's on the phone. Tim may want Mum's attention. Or maybe Mum talking on the phone is hurting Tim's ear and he's having some sensory sensitivities. Another tool that you can use is the most likely, least likely. And this tool can actually be downloaded from our website. If you go to the About Autism tab, and you'll see an Understanding Behaviour tab. So information is required about when the behaviour happens and under what circumstances. Equally important is when the behaviour does not happen. So the information you record on this sheet guides you to identify the circumstances that can provide good teaching opportunities. This table can record much of the information gathered about the specific behaviour we want to stop. So it might be that the behaviour most likely occurs with a casual teacher. It most likely occurs in the science lab. or at school, and it most likely occurs during a practical science activity and maybe in the afternoon. And then you could say it least likely occurs with the regular teacher in the computer lab during a theory lesson in the morning. And just using this tool can help you gather some information to try to determine what the function of the behaviour is. Another tool that can be used is the behaviour plan, and this can also be downloaded from our website. So if you meet the need or function of the behaviour, you address the actual behaviour. Research suggests that much of the difficult behaviour displayed by children with autism serves one of the following purposes, and you can see this in the middle of the tool. So the purpose of the behaviour could be to get attention, to get an object or activity, or to get a sensory need met. Or the behaviour could be serving the purpose of getting away from attention, to get away from object or activity, or to get away from a sensory need. Good thing to think about is if the behaviour could talk, what would it be saying? So this form, you see at the top, has an ABC chart. So you start in the middle box, the behaviour, and objectively write exactly what you can see the child doing or saying. And then you would move to the antecedent before the behaviour and write down what happened just before the behaviour. And then you would move to see the consequences after the behaviour and write down what happened straight after the behaviour. The next box you then look at is what is the possible purpose of the behaviour. So looking at those different purposes, what do you think the behaviour is trying to tell you? Then from there we'd go to the plan of intervention. So look at environmental changes. What changes can be put in place in the environment to the setting? Could it be using headphones if it's noisy, sunglasses if it's light? Adding visual structure and routine if there's some confusion around what to do. Giving the child the means to talk if the behaviour is about trying to get attention. And then you look at the replacement behaviour, because for every behaviour you want to stop, you need to start a new behaviour. And that behaviour has to address the function. It has to give the child the same purpose. So if the behaviour is to get a sensory need met, say the child is wanting movement and does so in a disruptive way, then the replacement behaviour might be teach the child to ask for a movement break. You've got to think about what behaviour do you want them to do instead. The child is crying in a supermarket because of the noise. It might be to teach them to wear headphones. So with the start behaviour, we have to teach the new skill. And then if you move to the right, we have to reward it. So how are you going to reward the use of that new behaviour? Because anything that we reinforce and reward, we get more of. So without working through this model, we may assume an incorrect function of behaviour. And this will set us up to fail when we are developing an intervention plan. So to see more about this behaviour plan and to work through a model, you can go to our website and get more information and watch a video. So research tells us that behaviour is cyclical. Crisis time is not a time to teach new behaviour. The focus during this crisis time should be to keep everybody safe and wait for the de-escalation. slide shows our planning matrix, which if you have been to a workshop, you'll be familiar with. If you're not familiar with the planning matrix, there is information on our website. You can download a copy of the matrix and download some information about how to use it. You can also watch a video on the planning matrix. But it's a useful tool for identifying the impact of specific issues and developing strategies to assist. It gives us a snapshot of the child, what their characteristics are, what the impact of those characteristics, and some strategies that address the impact. Remember that many of the strategies to support and improve behaviour skills also develop other skills. Suggestions could include using visual supports, their area of interest or role modelling. For example, you could practice behaviours and skills with your child and teach your child specific behaviours. You can use social scripts to help children understand situations, and you can teach explicitly the rules of different social situations. You could teach what to do when things aren't going his way, and you can role play with your child how to join in a game. We use visual reminders such as cue cards to support the learning and give positive feedback for new and improved behaviour. I just want to give you a moment to think about what works for you. So parents are natural teachers, and when we look at behaviour, we firstly want to look at what the triggers are, what the function of the behaviour is, if it's a behaviour we need to stop, and if so, what behaviours do we want to start. So as a parent, if a child doesn't know how to read, what do? You teach. And if a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, often we punish and are reactive. But behaviour is a skill that can be taught. If you want some more information about positive behaviour support or want to know a little bit more about what was talked about today, we do have an online module that you can access through our website. This module is free for everyone to complete. It will take about 20 minutes and you can do it in more than one sitting. It will remember where you're up to. So the Positive Partnership website is evidence-based and contains a lot of information. If you click register, if you're a first-time user, you'll complete a registration form and then you'll have access to our online learning portal where you can access that Understanding Behaviour module plus a range of other modules on different topics such as making friends, communication, completing work. That autism tab you can see at the top, if you're on our website, that is the tab you would click. And then down the left-hand side, you'll see a tab called Understanding Behaviour, and that's where you can access some of the templates I've shown you today and some more information about how to use them. There's also a variety of fact sheets. We also have a Facebook page and now on Twitter. So our Facebook page has over 3,000 followers. It has tips, information and chats regarding the supporting of school-aged children on the autism spectrum. We want the page to act as a forum for people to share their experiences, and we encourage you to leave comments, photos, videos and links. All posts are reviewed and any that are deemed offensive or inappropriate would be removed. Just before we finish, I want you to reflect on a few questions. So, what have you learnt today? Maybe you still have some more questions. Think about at least one thing that you could do that you've learnt from today's webinar. And if you have any feedback, you can always email us or use Facebook. So just some final thoughts there. So when it comes to understanding behaviour, the main thing we need to do is we need to use all those tools that were shown, use our knowledge of the child to determine what is the function of that behaviour. What is the behaviour trying to tell us? And then we need to think about, is it a behaviour that needs to be stopped? And if so, what new skill can we teach the child that's going to replace that behaviour and address the function of the behaviour? I want to say thank you for joining today's webinar. And if you do want some more information, then please do look at our website. Thank you.